All right. So a very warm good morning and good afternoon to all of you, depending upon the time zone you are in. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to all of you. In today's panel, we have four great minds with us who are leaders, entrepreneurs, and they are the creators. They are running their online businesses, e-commerce business successfully. They have a lot of insights and experiences to share in today's panel. Without further ado, let me begin with a formal introduction of our panelists this morning on the e-commerce Growth Hack Summit 2020. Let me begin with Ronald first. So we have Ronald Hickland. Ronald is the CEO of Creating the Difference. He's a silver level certified USBC coach. Uh, he has pursued mechanical engineering and his hobbies include track and bowling. Ronald has a history of driving innovation and he has a strong background in product development, ideation, project management, and direct manufacturing process development and marketing product to increase the market share to achieve revenue goals. Ronald has a passion for cultivating entrepreneurial spirit and through keynote speaking engagement and conferences. He enjoys promoting science, technology, and engineering mathematics in the community. He enjoys teaching, coaching, and he is bilingual. He knows Spanish as well. And Ronald has trained at the Center for Creative Leadership. Ronald, welcome to the panel this afternoon.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited to talk to the rest of the entrepreneurs and yourself and learn some more about everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. The next we have on the panel is Melly James. Melly James is the co-founder of Mana Up. It's an initiative to expand economic opportunity, business infrastructure, and higher wage jobs in Hawaii. It's Melly runs this accelerator program that enables entrepreneurs in Hawaii to scale their businesses globally, and Mana Up operates as a retail business and to connect people to local brands. She is also the president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association that seeks to foster entrepreneurial development through education, networking, and access to capital. Previously, uh, Melly has worked with Silicon Valley startups as well, and she has tremendous experience in the field of entrepreneurship. She has studied from Cornell University. She was recognized by Entrepreneur Magazine as one of the five women in 2016. She was recognized as one of the eight women leaders who are disrupting entrepreneurship in 2017 as well. Melly, welcome to the panel this morning.
Thanks, Kuldeep. Great to be here.
Thank you. Next we have on the panel is Stephanie McTigg. Stephanie is the CEO of Kofi Leathers. Uh, Her brand, uh, they strive to make fashion leather handbag, belts, and shoes, along with iPad and Kindle cases. And they believe in creating high quality product which are affordable and she has uh, she has been a learning consultant and learning specialist. She studied clinician from Northwestern University, and she has a master's in art, and her interests are in fashion, retail, and anthropology. Stephanie, welcome to the panel.
Thanks so much for having me.
Wonderful. The next we have on the panel is Jay O'Hare. Jay is the CEO and founder of Venga CBD. Jay is an entrepreneur with a drive to succeed. He has been a part of multiple startups and developed and implemented new generation tools, technologies, and strategies to create profitable businesses. And his present venture was created to support endurance athletes to be able to do the sport they love for the rest of their lives. And Venga, the Spanish term, means come on, go. And located in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. The founders are all endurance athletes, and all the employees have a passion for endurance sports. And Jay is doing tremendous work in the field of sports. Looking forward to know more about Jay's work. Jay, welcome to the panel.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I must say, this is going to be a great panel discussion. And I would like to start with this first question, which is around purpose. The purpose of your brand, the purpose of what you do, and why you do it. Let me begin with maybe Melly first.
Great, thanks, Kuldeep. So here at Mana Up, we are an economic development initiative to help grow up the product industry here in Hawaii. Hawaii, we all know it as palm trees and mai tais and all that other good stuff, but really it's one of the most expensive places to live in the islands. And we're actually one of 10 states in the US consistently where our local population continues to decrease. And so looking around and looking at innovation, startups, entrepreneurship, and why that's important to diversify our economy away from just tourism and military, and how do we create higher paying jobs here? We started Mana Up to double down on a competitive advantage or regional strength, and that being the brand of Hawaii, and seeing it in its strongest form in consumer packaged goods. You can kind of see some of them behind me here. I'm in my office.
Wow.
You know, the companies that we work with exclusively are CPG and the retail value add food, health, beauty, or home. They need to be elevating the brand of Hawaii. So that purpose, that storytelling, that narrative, you know, how do we take back that narrative of the way the world learns about Hawaii? There's actually quite a bit of products that leverage our brand that has nothing to do with Hawaii. Like Maui chips is actually a Frito-Lay brand that has nothing to do with Maui, even though they're quite delicious. So, you know, looking at some of those things, how do we leverage those strengths so that our local population, our local entrepreneurs can start to double down, scale to global markets, and create jobs here and sustainable livelihood. So that's really why we started Mana Up.
Wow, wonderful. That's a very, very strong purpose, I must say, because you are kind of creating an entrepreneurial island, I must say, because it's like that fostering that spirit is essential because entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and that system that you have created definitely might be empowering hundreds of future leaders. Wow, kudos. I mean, that's a great work.
And it's also about how do we double down on companies that not only make sense to start here, but to stay here and thrive here, as it's very expensive to stay. So if there's no real reason to keep you here, you probably won't stay here. We've seen that in the past.
That's great, because I think that matters. That really matters, because I think when you have entrepreneurs kind of coming up with new business ideas, I think it generates a lot of healthy environment for the community to foster, because it's not just the entrepreneurs who are growing, but it's the community. They are creating employment and a lot of other stuff, and that's what adds value for the whole society. Excellent work, Melly. Commendable. Let me go to Stephanie. Stephanie, how is your brand, and what's the purpose of your brand?
Well, we started Kofi Leathers as a family business. I will say my father's been in the leather business for over 45 years now. So the idea behind it was to create a really unique leather products that are more for the masses, and they help sort of differentiate people, that they can stand out from the crowd. So when I had grown up in fashion, I grew up on the East Coast, and everything was a little bit cookie cutter. And there are some amazing and beautiful brands out there, but what differentiates the Kofi line is that we have these unique printed leathers where we use Italian papers and foils as a transfer process onto the leather to custom create our leathers. And then we use those leathers to create handbags and sneakers and shoes. So we are still trying to bring an element of comfort, but also to be able to have a woman's inner beauty shine with their outer accessories, and so that they can really differentiate themselves from other people who are walking in the boardroom if they carry their handbag in, or people that are walking in a city. So they have something that's really unique and different for the women that are out there that want to have their own point of view and their own perspective. So there's that piece of it. And then there's, of course, also the piece that we want to make sure that we try to give back to the community. I know we've donated to 210 Footwear Foundation, which is an incredible community that helps give back. Again, just kind of embracing the leather community that my father has grown up with, and that I've grown up with since I was a little girl. So.
Wow, excellent, I must say. And so you're taking the legacy forward and kind of taking it to the next level. Wow, great work. Would love to learn more about it. Let me go to Ronald. Ronald, look forward to what's your purpose and what do you say?
Yeah, so Creating the Difference is an educational company at its heart. Essentially, what we do is we offer products and services to the bowling industry to help grow bowling. We have our own training facility that's got 4 lanes in it. We do YouTube videos on everything related to bowling you could think of every other day. And we do a lot of community outreach too. So like I do a lot of speaking to students, to teachers, educating them on kind of the science behind bowling. Everybody kind of is familiar with the sport of bowling.
Yep.
But there's a lot of technical things that go on behind the scenes, so to speak. I used to be a bowling ball designer, believe it or not. And as a result of that experience, we try to educate not just bowlers, but we try to educate as many people as possible about the possibilities of going into STEM and how entrepreneurship and STEM tie together, as well as being able to educate bowlers on how to become better bowlers.
Wow, excellent, excellent. I mean, that's really, really commendable. And so you're empowering everyone who wants to kind of take their future forward, which is amazing. I think because I think at an early stage when it's a kid or a student, I think they are not aware of the opportunities. But I think having that information access and someone who is guiding them throughout their journey can really make a big difference. So I think your name, the creating the difference, also is a unique name that you have thought of. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. Let me go to Jay. Jay, something about your brand and your purpose.
Yeah, it turns out that there's about 60 million what we would call endurance athletes in the United States.
Wow.
And anybody that's done endurance sports, for many people, it becomes just a way of life for them. It becomes part of their identity. And maybe they got into it because they had some big medical problem, or maybe they got into it because they had some life tragedy, or whatever the case is. Oftentimes, there's usually some sort of big catalyst that gets them over that hump of getting started.
Yeah.
And for many of these people, like I say, it becomes part of their identity. And the reality is, though, that endurance sports do take a pretty heavy toll on the body. And some of the fittest people on the planet are also the most broken. And for the longest time, we've just had very few options to treat things like pain, inflammation, recovery, those kinds of things. And so people are using things like ibuprofen, got into opioids. There's all kinds of things on that end. And I started the company because as I learned about how CBD helps athletes with inflammation, with pain management, with mental stability, those kinds of things, it just made so much sense. And so what we do is we try to help athletes stay in the game when their bodies won't let them. And our tagline is endurance for life. And the idea behind that is that if you're a runner or you're a cyclist or you're a hiker, you want to be able to do that for as long as you possibly can. And, we all need some help along the way. And here is this all natural, plant-based, completely safe compound that helps endurance athletes incredibly. So
wow.
Our purpose is to help endurance athletes do their sport for the rest of their life.
Excellent. Wow, that's a very, very strong purpose. And I think, as you mentioned, that number, that's a huge number, 60 million. That's a huge, huge number. And being able to serve them or being able to help them, that really conveys a lot about the brand. Excellent. My next question for all of you is, you guys have been are entrepreneurs and established your business, and now you are growing your business. You are either in a early stage, or you are in a growth stage, or you are in a stage where you have matured and you want to take it to the next level. So depending upon the stage that you are in, what technologies do you use, or do you use artificial intelligence to understand the consumer behavior of the customers that you have already acquired in order to grow your business? Maybe so you can share your thoughts on that. Maybe let me go to Melly.
Sure. So we definitely are in a growth stage. We opened our House of Mana Up retail location in the heart of Waikiki last year, and then quickly shut down when the whole state shut down in March. And really turned the store into an e-commerce platform, obviously, because we're just seeing that massive adoption of people shopping online and being able to continue to support our entrepreneurs to move inventory. We have over 1,400 products in the store based off of the 51 companies who are in our portfolio. And so it was quite a massive undertaking. And Shopify is actually one of our partners. So we're part of the Shopify for Startups program that all of our companies get access to Shopify Advanced. They get access to, somebody to help them. And we do these coffee talks where they introduce new apps, which we've brought on quite a few. And that's why I'm a big believer in Shopify. Just because I think for the future, just looking at the apps that you can layer onto that platform, have massive amounts of AI learning data that I don't think that a lot of the other platforms have as robustly. So I would say, one of the particular apps that we're using is called Klaviyo. That's a big one that it really creates flows. It's really like MailChimp on crack. I hope I can say that on this video. But really creating different types of flows based on how people are interacting with your site. If it's an abandoned cart or where they were at on the site, and tracking all of that and creating these different flows so you can recapture them. Another one I really like in terms of increasing email database is Privy. I think the Privy wheel is a really important one. These might be too basic for some of the audience here, but these are some of the initial apps that we use. The Privy wheel, where it's a spin to win, essentially. So it's basically getting everyone's email that comes onto the platform, and they get incentivized to make that first purchase. So there's quite a few. I could keep going, but I'll let everyone else jump in as well. But it's been a neat on-ramping even for our accelerator. We run a 6-month accelerator, and our first half this year was primarily and exclusively based on e-commerce, digital marketing, and direct-to-consumer, because all that information is at everyone's fingertips, and that's really driving a lot of purchase decision now, as opposed to in the past where legacy companies could kind of hide behind their legacy, which it's really a great time right now for micro brands.
Wonderful. So go ahead, Jay.
Well, no, I'll just say we use Klaviyo as well. And it's tailor-made, specifically made for e-commerce companies. And I think there's kind of 2 steps in here. I think artificial intelligence is great, and Klaviyo has some beginnings of that, where you can, it will begin to predict how likely someone is to buy again. So there are some ways in which you can build some of these automations or flows based on some of those predictions. And it's my understanding that there's some artificial intelligence underneath that. Perhaps the sort of the starter kit to artificial intelligence is automation. Trying to do things to where a lot of processes are automated. And we've had some really great success with that.
Cool, awesome. How about you, Stephanie? How is the business for you? Like, since you are running this family business, how do you scale up your business? How do you grow your revenue?
So I would say that this year has been a huge year to pivot for us. So we were in we were in about 250 stores. So we had been selling wholesale quite a bit previously, and had been growing our business a lot in that area. This year, as I said, there's been quite a few stores who have closed up shop, who have consolidated their stores, who have gone online. A lot of, retail's been hit incredibly hard during the pandemic, as places have had to close down. So for Ko-fi, what I've really worked on is to try to pivot and spend more time and energy to grow the e-commerce business. So we do also use Shopify, and I agree. I think it's a phenomenal platform, and I think there's just a lot that you can do with it, and a ton of apps that work well with that. We've kind of bounced around, honestly, from different, we had, started with MailChimp. We had tried Klaviyo for a little bit. We're actually using ActiveCampaign, and I kind of go back and forth as to whether Klaviyo or ActiveCampaign is a better tool. I'm honestly not 100% sure yet. I think both of them serve the purpose well, and I think they're, certainly in competition with each other. And I do think the automations can be incredibly helpful in terms of retargeting and bringing people back into your site or reaching back out to them with that email marketing piece. So for what we've been working on is we've been also doing some Google ads and some Facebook ads to try to drive increased traffic. So one, in terms of kind of getting new eyes on our site, but then also just again in that retargeting piece, which has been really tremendous. And we've seen a lot of growth with that, because I agree that e-commerce is certainly kind of pushed forward almost 4 or 5 years from where it probably would have been. So there's a lot of people that have been forced to purchase via the internet in a way that, you know, maybe they wouldn't have felt as comfortable previously. And then we also use some omni channels. I mean, we're working with Amazon, although I think Amazon is its own beast. So I feel like that's a whole nother learning curve. And then there are some other great platforms. There's something called Fashwire that we've been working with, which is a great platform just to drive traffic to the site and sort of to extend our reach. And then we've also been working with something called Verishop, which is another, they're actually creating their own app, which we've just discussed about, we're getting on their marketplace, and they have been able to retarget specific users based on interest level. So I feel like we're sort of trying to dive into a variety of these different platforms and continue to explore what's out there for Ko-fi. And then of course, still continue to drive people to our site.
Wow, amazing. So you're taking that omni-channel approach and kind of by being present everywhere. And wow, that's great. I think it's a great piece of insight. Amazing. How about you, Ronald? What approach do you take to grow your business? And how was the business for you in the last 6 to 8 months?
So sports in general is kind of an interesting one, right? Because it's a participatory thing and you need people to be able to do it. So bowling, being an indoor sport, has definitely seen a lot of contraction as a result of the pandemic. You know, when states closed down, people aren't really going bowling. We've been very lucky with our situation just because of the way we go to market. The industry is kind of set up to kind of go from a manufacturer to a distributor to a pro shop to a consumer. And that's just the way all of the businesses in bowling tend to work. When we started this company 5 years ago, we opted to go the opposite way. We went from manufacturer directly to consumer, and then built up that business enough to where pro shops said, how can we get involved? So we developed a program for them, built that up enough where distributors said, how can we get involved? And did the same thing with them. So when everything shut down, whereas a lot of the manufacturers had nowhere to be able to go because they couldn't send to distribution because distribution was also shut down, we were still able to send product to people, still able to sell product because we talked directly to consumers. And not all of the consumers were done bowling. Not only that, but one of the other things that we've been able to do, it's a little bit different using the Shopify platform. We use an app called Bold, which is a subscription app. And we offer subscriptions to people to get our products on a monthly basis. And that was very interesting for our brand because it allowed us to get continual income even when there was no body bowling.
Wow.
So that was very helpful for us. And then we also have a thing that we do where we basically, because we give away all of our information in terms of information about bowling, we've got a staffing program where you can kind of become an ambassador or a brand ambassador for us. And it gets you into a group and gets you into getting some inside information and those kind of things. And we always interact with our group. And when the pandemic hit, we actually kind of pivoted a little bit from just giving raw information to changing to do some entertaining stuff. So we actually started playing online games with our staff group. And we found that to be very helpful, uplifting, considering that everybody was kind of stuck at home one. And then the more interesting thing with that is we did a couple of sales during March and April, which is when the pandemic was going on. And we actually had 2 of our best months ever during that time period. I think it's a combination of because we were continuing to interact with people, whereas kind of everybody else, at least in our industry, kind of shut down. Like they completely shut down and weren't really doing much of anything. So there wasn't a whole lot of options. And the fact that we had built a kind of a repertoire with the people to be able to interact with them on a continual basis. So it was like, well, I've got some money here and bowling will eventually come back. So let me go spend it with you guys. So and actually for us, it ended up being a kind of a good thing just because our business model is a little bit different than everybody else's.
Great. Amazing. Wow. So being there for the consumers. And I think that's good. That's a great insight that you shared there. My next question for all of you is organic versus inorganic growth. Like once you have set up your brand, once you have set up your online store, the objective is to drive traffic or visitors to your store, and for which you have to do either a paid marketing campaign on Facebook, Google, or Instagram, or you have to do SEO, content marketing. So what approach have you guys taken so far in order to acquire those new customers? Do you believe more in paid marketing, or do you believe more in inorganic growth, like which is no paid at all? So what approach do you take? Let me go to Melly first.
We've done both. I would say that we've done quite a bit of campaigns around partnerships. So we partnered with, like-minded organizations that are much bigger than ours. So for example, King's Hawaiian is, an incredibly large Hawaiian sweetbread company that's in like a whole bunch of countries, and they're growing like crazy, and they've got a huge following. But it was a very similar following to the people we like, people who love Hawaii that live all over the world. And so we did a big giveaway with them, a year of Kings and a year of Mana Up. So you get basically a shipment every month. And people had to submit their email and follow us on Instagram, Facebook in order to register. So that was like incredibly successful to find some of those partnerships like that to be doing these types of giveaways. We also did an interesting kind of, it's called Let's Mana Up, where all of our companies did a discount for a week, where it was the same hashtag, and they were all part of this, week long of discounts with Mana Up through their own platforms. But what that did was really create that awareness and that leveraged all of our companies' followings themselves, which I think is over like 3 or 4 million between all of them, at least. And so that was really around them kind of hooeying up, excuse me, I'm using some Hawaiian words here, like grouping up to kind of create awareness around this larger initiative, which I think has been very successful around not just supporting local products here, but supporting an initiative that helps to create more local products. And that I think is a very great thing around that organic growth, where how do you start to pull on people's heartstrings or have it resonate around something that may be important to them as well. And so some of the other kind of organic growth we've had is focusing on that storytelling. So, how do we get more creative with these kinds of giveaways? So one of our companies did like every day he gave away a really cool like sketch he did online with a video. So we've been playing around a lot with more organic. Granted, we have also done a lot of paid ads with Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And testing out A/B testing many of them. I will say as we went into that route, we really needed to get more on testing out different imagery, different messaging, and really having someone on our team on that, because you can create these great ads and just have them start running. But if you're not continuing to learn and having a dedicated person that's really on that to continue to push the needle, then I think it starts to get a little bit more wasted money.
Interesting. Wow. So you are taking a balanced approach between paid and organic traffic, like paid and organic marketing. So that's a good thought process. And I think you get an advantage of having all those companies together, where you can then have a movement, and that becomes a great awareness campaign in itself. And I think the more the better, and I think you can do great things. So amazing. That's a great piece of insight. Amazing. Let me go to Stephanie. Stephanie, you mentioned previously you do Facebook and other ads. So what are your thoughts on paid versus organic growth?
I agree with creating that balanced approach, doing a bit of both. I know, I'm a woman-owned business, and being in that, I try to partner with other women-owned businesses to support each other, especially during this time. So I've done some giveaways on Facebook or Instagram, partnering with other brands, trying to work with other brands to support each other during this time. So kind of, again, it's just a bit of a mix of both. I can say that we use a company called Logical Positions, which I think has been amazing, speaking to trying to have somebody consistently looking at your Google ads or your Facebook ads, that to make sure that they're constantly being tweaked and appropriately hitting the right target market. So in terms of the paid piece, it is good having somebody who specializes in that to really direct the traffic there. So I would say that balanced approach. And then we've also been partnering with some of the stores that carry our line. We try to repost what they've posted in their stores. We've also tried to do during the months of shutdown, we were trying to do little virtual Facebook demonstrations so people could purchase and purchase Kofi, but really go through the store. So we're, again, trying to partner with the stores to make sure that some of our stores who have been supporting us, that we can support them as well during the pandemic time. So I'd say kind of just a mix of both. Both avenues, I think, is a good route to go. And in terms of, I mean, there's always more that you can do. So it's kind of also picking and choosing those lanes. So we've been focused more on Facebook and Instagram, although I know that, Pinterest could be great for our brand. I just think it's a matter, again, of sort of the bandwidth and trying to pick and choose what's the greatest focus for now.
Awesome. So that's a great approach, and I think that's a great way to build awareness ultimately, because in the conversion funnel, awareness is at the top of it, and I think from the awareness till the purchase, it's like a cycle, the journey that the consumer has to go through. So I think you're kind of creating that awareness at all the stages. That's amazing. How about you, Ronald? What do you do in order to kind of engage with your target audience?
So we do a little bit of both, like everybody else has said, but we really focus on the organic. And I'll tell you why. I think the organic has more long-term value for our brand. The people that you end up giving all this information away to, they end up liking what you're doing, and then they can kind of become like almost like disciples of your information to other people. And then that allows for people to come in. It's one of those things where if a friend recommends a product to you, you're more likely to buy it than if you saw it on my Google ads. You know what I mean?
True.
So we do both. We actually use Logical Positions as well, Stephanie. And we're good with our results. We like what we're getting from them, but we found that, at least for us, that we get more subscriptions, we get more long-term, more hardcore followers, if you will, doing it very organically, which means a lot of FaceTime with these people and or interacting with our groups. So I think at the end of the day, for us, it's allowed us to be up when everybody else is down.
Cool. That's good. So organic approach has worked for you. Great. So that's good. Good to know that. Amazing. How about you, Jay? As you mentioned previously, you already know your target audience. You already know their persona. How do you engage with them?
Yeah, this has been an interesting time because, one of our biggest channels was going to actual endurance events. So, summer of 2019, every weekend we were at a marathon or a triathlon or a bike race or, something like that, interacting with athletes, doing a lot of lead generation. And of course, this year, that completely went away. The second piece that's a little bit challenging is that really all the big players in terms of social media, Google, Facebook, Instagram, all those, those are pretty much off limits for us. And that's because the nature of CBD. And while there are some CBD companies that have figured out a way that sort of hack the system and get in, and you may see that, we're not convinced that that's really producing results and that it's not reliable and that they get shut down and there's a lot of problems. So we spent a lot of time building out our marketing funnel. So all of the sort of top of funnel activities. So we do a lot with affiliate networks. ambassadors. So like these are people that just like love our products and want to tell their friends, kind of like what Ronald said. We get, much more engagement and conversion on that end. Pro athletes, partnering with them that really believe in the product and use it, and then they tell the people that follow them as well. Podcasts, a lot of things, just trying to be really creative in how we can do that. And then the second piece is that once we've gotten them to the site, we try to like really create a lot of value for them. And what we found is that people aren't ready to buy like right away. Like they need to be educated. So like, for example, we wrote this guide, this endurance athlete's guide to CBD. It's like 60 pages and it's like 6 chapters, but it's like everything an endurance athlete would want to know about how CBD works in the body, why they should take it, all those kinds of things. So we try to add like a ton of value in terms of, ways in which it helps them in their lives. And then with the bottom of the funnel, really doing things like following up, getting them into subscription programs and things like that. So we've had to be pretty creative during this time to kind of pivot and put all these different components into place.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're
really
taking
like
that.
what you're saying there, Jay, because one of our companies is a CBD company, so that's been quite tricky. Because we won't even let them on our Shopify platform because it feels like it's been kind of back and forth, and we can't get shut down, so we can't have it on the store. But I love what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Totally. I mean, and the industry is maturing and it's helping, but there's, but there are definitely some challenges. But, as we see it, the benefit is like, we're really helping people, and like the types of testimonials that we get and stories that we get from athletes and how they weren't able to do something and now they can go back to that sport that they love, that sort of thing. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. And we get these like on a daily basis. So it's been great on that end.
Great. So I
we've
think
done something similar with like testimonials, but also like, I love what you're talking about, being experts in the field. So how are you educating and providing that as a source of information that starts to establish you as like the expert?
Yeah. And everything that we do, I mean, like we basically, like, these are our sort of 3 products. Like we essentially have 4 products, but really 3. I mean, we just really focus in on training, racing, and recovery. Whereas a lot of our competitors have many, many products and many SKUs and concentrations. And we just want to make it simple for athletes. Like for training, you use this. When you're in a race or on the go, you use this. And when you want to recover, you use this. It's like super simple. So we try to break it down and make it very easy for them.
Wow. So you're kind of following that product education principle and keeping it simple. Wow, that's quite cool. So I think for all of you, I think you all are taking very unique and different approaches towards engagement based on the consumer persona that you have. My next question for all of you is around retention. Like once you have acquired your early adapters, your early customers, retention is going to play a key role in order to derive maximum lifetime value from those customers. How has the retention been for all of you for your store? And is it in single digit? Is it in double digit? Is it like too high or too low? How is that? How the retention is working out for you? Maybe let me go to Melly.
So you're speaking about repeat customers?
Yes, repeat customers and retention rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always those different pieces, right? Like how do you, there's the awareness piece, and then, how do you continue to stay relevant and interesting? And so we've done a lot to create different types of storytelling. So we're really working with the companies around like the behind the scenes, like how do you share more around looking at transparency, authenticity, and that connection to culture being 3 main pillars that I think really help drive a lot of that storytelling and different types of information that people are just eating up because they can't go anywhere right now. So that's been a big part of the retention aspect. So how are we telling those stories differently? How are we having the companies help create some of that information, but also how are we engaging our audience? So some of our companies have actually started having their consumers creating content. So what our coffee company, as they had quite a bit of inventory, as they had a much bigger presence in retail, as opposed to online, which they've obviously shifted in the last 9 months. But they were doing this whole campaign with baristas, out of work baristas, and sending coffee to these amazing baristas who are, not working right now, having them make these really cool coffees and wherever they live, and filming and then submitting. And that was kind of part of like the give get. And so that really created massive amounts of interesting content that didn't have to come from the companies themselves, which was quite interesting. And then one of our makeup companies actually did the same thing. They sent makeup out to all these really amazing makeup artists who are all over the world who are out of work. And they would do these really neat kind of tutorials and things like that. So I think on the retention standpoint, people, I mentioned this earlier. I mean, when you think about micro brands, we were just reading this McKinsey report that millennials are 4 times more likely to purchase from a micro brand as opposed to a legacy brand, which is totally different than what it was 5 or 10 years ago, which unless you were like Nabisco or whatever, that was your go-to. And so that's really opening and leveling the playing field for a lot of these smaller companies, not only to have that leg up, but also that ability for people to have that information. I mean, you're either online or you're at the shelf, and in seconds you can see who's the founder, what do they stand for, what are the ingredients, how do you use the product. All of that stuff is at everyone's fingertips, which is absolutely an advantage for many of our companies and for many companies on this call that have that transparency and authenticity, right? And how do you tell that story in a different way to keep it interesting and to resonate with others?
Wow, that's a great point. User-generated content and how it can have a big impact on the retention. Wow, that's a great insight. Stephanie, how about you?
We have great customer retention. I think in part it's because we've got such a great product. I think when people wear it and love it and they get compliments on it, they want to get more of it or buy it for their friends. And people generally love to showcase a new brand to different people and to share it with people, which has been great. But I think part of the process that's been really important for me is to have really good customer service. So I think that for sure increases your retention rate. So if somebody is unhappy with the product, or if something for whatever reason or whatever purpose, we're more than happy to, honor that return or exchange and make sure that our customer is happy with the end product and the end user, or the end product that we have to deliver to them, so that they feel like they're really getting the value out of what we have to offer. So I feel like we just try really hard to provide great customer service, and then again, reaching back out to the customers and staying relevant on social media, and then reposting what other people have posted about Ko-fi. So a variety of different techniques in order to try to stay in front of the customer and just keep them abreast of what we have that's new or developing or different, and then providing some incentive to come back to the site. So
that's good.
A variety of different tools.
Okay, so ultimately, listening to the consumers' feedback and kind of being there with them to make sure that they are getting the best product and at the same time best service. So that's an excellent advice. How about you, Ronald? How was the retention rate for you? Because since you are doing that organic growth, organic approach, I think how is your retention rate so far?
Yeah, so our retention rate is pretty high. It's definitely double digits, strong double digits, and primarily because the beautiful thing about what we're doing, like I said at the beginning, we're an educational company, right? So we're constantly putting out education for bowlers. And the more educated you help somebody, the more likely they are to support and then come back and support again. We have countless number of people coming back to us who have bought one of our products, who learned about our products from one of their friends or however they learned about it, to then get more information. So I think the key to retention, or a key to retention, is finding out a way to continually help the consumer. If you're doing that through education, that's one way to do it. If you're doing it through giveaways or ways to keep them engaged in your products, that's another way to do it. We because we're an educational company, and because we have the ability to continue to produce content. So a lot of our content's digital. We shoot videos and we put them up. Like I said, we put a YouTube video up every other day. So that helps to reinforce some of the things that you've shown in the past, or reinforce things that they've been taught, or maybe things that they haven't been taught. which becomes very powerful too, especially when we've got some unique technology that we have at our disposal in our building that makes it very visual. We can actually show, if we're explaining a product, we can visually show it on the lane to help really get the point across. And that helps with the retention and getting people to come back to your brand over and over again. So,
Wow, super cool. That's a great piece of advice there. So it's like uh, when you're creating that, when you want a high retention rate, I think having great content that can have that impact can make a big difference. I think that's a great advice. Thank you. Jay, how about you? Again,
Yeah.
for you also, maybe you
Yeah,
may be
no,
doing
these
similar
are
things.
all great. I mean, and we certainly follow a lot of what everyone else has said. And I would just add to that by saying that, like, one of the pieces that I mean, certainly we sell a painkiller, so it kind of has a built-in retention that if it's working,
Yeah.
people don't want pain, so they're gonna buy over and over again. So we do have a really good customer lifetime value. Our repeat purchase is particularly high, but part of it is there's also a lot of competition out there, and one of the things that we focus on to help is in developing trust with our customers. And one way to do that is to really pay attention to what we call like the touch points. So for example, like our packaging, like when you get our product, it's like beautifully wrapped, it comes in great packaging. It's got instructions in there on how to use it. So we take a lot of care in, like, when the customer is going to interface with our product, what's that experience like? Because that helps engender that trust. And we've experimented with a number of different things. Over the summer, I worked with a company. We were actually sending out personalized videos to every single customer. That got a little overwhelming, but the reception from that was just great. Like, wow, like the CEO is sending me a video and saying, hey, how are and giving them instructions. So I think all of those things to engender that trust and differentiate yourself from the competition can be one where, when it comes time to reorder, who are they going to go to? And hopefully they're going to go to the company that they trust.
Wow, excellent. So personalizing the messaging and packaging. Wow, that's excellent. I mean, because that can really make a huge difference in kind of building that bond and building that trust so that the consumer keeps on coming back. And I think that's an excellent point that you shared there. Wonderful. My next question for all of you is, uh, 2020 has been challenging for every retailer out there. Maybe 2021 will be better. So what is that one or two thing that you wanted to do in 2020 that you haven't done? Maybe a part of your new product launch or a marketing campaign that you wanted to do this year but you haven't done. So what is that one or two thing that you would like to do in 2021 that can help your brand to scale up or take it to the next level? Maybe let me go to Stephanie.
So there's a variety of things, as I said, there's always more that I feel like we could do. But something that we've been talking a lot about trying to implement is to do some more video ads of, using the product or the product in different settings. And also doing a video ad of sort of brand messaging, of telling sort of more about what our brand is all about and how we came to be and how we got started. So that's something that I definitely want to focus on. And then I think the packaging piece as well is an area that we want to continue to develop and work on, especially since our retail, the online business has been growing this year specifically. So we need to kind of continue to focus on that. So I'd say those are two of the things that kind of pop right into my head of what we want to focus on and work on for next year. And then obviously just continued development and growth on our online platforms. And then hopefully continuing to partner with other stores as hopefully stores that reopen again and see sort of the increased consumer demand if people can get back out in the world. So those are some of our goals.
Cool. Video ads and packaging. Wow, that's great. How about you, Melly? What would you like to do in the next 1 year for taking your net brands to the next level?
It's a tough question because so many things are just out the door. It's not even relevant
You have
anymore.
to choose one.
Our pathway that would have been if everything hadn't gone down the way it did this year.
Mhm.
I will say, I mean, kind of, I guess two things. One, more product development on our side.
Okay.
We've got incredible amount of products in the store, but how are we developing out more Mana Up products that are complementary? We have our bag over here, but how do we continue to evolve products that can be around our brand as well?
Mhm.
Another piece is around that storytelling aspect. So we do these entrepreneur cards in all of our gift sets. So it shares a
Mhm.
little bit about who the entrepreneur is that's related to the product that's in your set, or if it's 5 different products in the set, we've got 5 entrepreneur cards. So how do we
Cool.
continue to evolve that piece
Wow.
around creating that connection, but
Mhm.
also from I guess we call it the mainland, the mainland US, how
Yeah.
do we also evolve our stories to create some type of resonance with people who aren't necessarily like from here or living here or
Yeah.
connected to Hawaii, as it is a globally loved brand. How do we evolve that story so everyone can feel a part of that?
Cool. Wow. That's great. That entrepreneur card. Wow. That's something very, very unique. That's a very, very unique thing. Cool. How about you, Ronald?
So one of our big things is product development and innovation. So this year, we were on pace to do 7 new products, and we only did 5 just because
Mhm.
of what happened. I think uh, we're always looking to innovate. We're always looking to come up with new ideas in the bowling space, and sometimes we get them from inside bowling, sometimes we get them from outside bowling. So it's interesting that you kind of mentioned that, because one of the things that kind of popped up from just listening to everybody is maybe I need to have a conversation with Jay at some point, because bowlers are athletes too, and they have pain. So maybe we need to have a conversation and see if there's a way to get CBD in the bowling center, so in the bowlers' hands.
Love
So
it. Love it.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Wow, that's a great thing. How about you, Jay? What is that one or two thing that you would like to do in the next 1 year?
Yeah, so well, I hope events come back, and my fear a little bit is that they're probably going to come back, but not to the extent that they were. It'll probably be like just like event participants, and no big crowds or things like that. I think that's still a little bit far out, but certainly what Ronald just brought up, like partnerships, I think we can do a much better job with that. I would say that like sort of we're in year 3 right now. So year 1 was like, would anybody even buy this? Like, does this even work? I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of like, are people even interested in this? And we proved that that's the case. This year has been a lot of testing. What resonates with people? What do they respond to?
Mhm.
What drives conversion? And I think we've got some terrific data on that throughout this year. And then next year is about, okay, how do we partner with more companies? How do we get more like pro athletes on board? And how do we just reach new athletes? That's kind of the big one.
Great, great. So I think the next 1 year is going to be really, really interesting. And
Yeah.
you all have mentioned about storytelling, product education. So, for example, if you have been asked what your brand stands for, or if you have to describe your brand, let's say in a word or maybe in a sentence, what would that sentence or word be? Maybe because typically in advertising, I think the copy plays an important role, like how you grab the attention, because I think the consumers on a day-to-day basis are consuming so much of content or advertisement. So how do you kind of break that noise, or how do you create that space in the consumer's mind? So what is that one tagline or one word or one sentence that you would like to say about your brand, that you can say to your consumer, that we are this, maybe something like that? Maybe let me go to Melly. Be creative.
Too early to be creative right now.
Yeah.
I think the one we go to the most that's short is, support Hawaii entrepreneurs.
Oh, cool.
I think one word that I would use would be the word regenerative.
Hmm.
And I brought that up earlier around how are we continue to support more entrepreneurs and grow the industry here, and have people
Cool.
be a part of that.
Wow, that's great. Thoughtful. Stephanie, how about you?
I would say for my brand, it's really about women empowerment and
Uh-huh.
women confidence. So a tagline that we often use is "Be bold, be confident, be Kofi." So I think it's just allowing as a woman to say, "This is who I am, and this is how I feel, and this is what represents sort of my inner light." So I think that would probably be the encompassing what our brand stands for.
Excellent, excellent. Wow. Ronald, how about you, if you have to describe it?
Yeah, I mean, we say all the time in all of our videos, a lot of stuff that we do on social media, we simply say education is creating the difference because that's what we are. We're educational companies. So that's our
Cool.
tagline. We use it in a lot of videos, and then we've had people say it back to us. So it's kind of cool.
Excellent. Wow. Jay, how about you?
Yeah, I think I would say, gosh, can I boil it down to one thing? I would certainly say I think our tagline, "Endurance for Life," it's a bit of a double entendre. I think that has some meaning to it, and that we've got nature's ibuprofen. That's another way to look at it too.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Uh, while we are coming to an end of this panel discussion, one last question that I have for all of you is, uh, there are so many entrepreneurs, so many businesses out there uh, who are who have established their presence, but they're doing their own things. But what is that one piece of advice or that one thing that you would like to suggest to a budding entrepreneur or an established e-commerce or a retail business that they can implement within their business, and that that they can just quickly implement, and that can certainly help them, that you have done in the past? You guys have done so many things. What is that one or two thing that you would like to say as a piece of advice to them? Maybe let me go to Jay.
Yeah, I think probably the one piece of advice would be to talk to your customers,
Hmm.
like really listen to what your customers have to say.
Mhm.
It's essentially free, and it takes time in that, but certainly listening to what your customers have to say, like reaching out to them. Like we have an active program that we actually call customers and just say, hey, how are things going for you? How's this product? Do you have questions?
Yeah.
We had a situation a little over a year ago, certainly in the CBD business. Credit card processing was difficult, and so we got our credit card processing shut down.
Mhm.
So we couldn't process credit cards online. So we actually had to call customers and take their credit card over the phone and punch it into our virtual terminals on our iPhones, right?
Mhm.
Um, but totally turned that into a positive thing because it gave us an opportunity to answer questions, get to know the customer, find out something about them, and develop that relationship. So any kind of opportunities to listen to customers can be really, really helpful.
Excellent, excellent advice. Maybe Stephanie, one piece of advice from you.
So I love what Jay said. I think that's incredibly important. I think the other thing I would say is to try to address any issues that happen sort of head on. I think tiptoeing around it or not addressing whatever it is. Like if your machine's broken, then what do you do? And trying to figure out how to pivot quickly and then take care of whatever issues come up. And then just kind of persevere too. I think there's a lot of perseverance and a lot of grit and as an entrepreneur that if things don't look like they're going the way that you had thought, I mean, 2020 is a perfect example of that. It's like,
Yeah,
how do you pivot? How do you shift? How do you change? So that flexibility and thinking, I think, is really important. So I guess that's sort of a bunch of things, but that's what I
wonderful.
think.
So that's amazing advice. Thank you. Melly, how about you?
I think something that is easy to do to implement now, that I would share with entrepreneurs getting started or in growth, would be to succinctly be able to share your why. And I
Mhm.
think when customers can connect with that, and be able to peel back some layers around why you started this company, what's the mission, people are very interested in that, and that can be that main line that's driving them to shop with you, to continue to shop with you, to trust you, to develop that relationship. So I think that that's really important. That's something we work on a lot, is how do you succinctly share your why? Because nobody's got half an hour to hear your story. They've got
Yeah.
like 1 minute. So
Excellent.
I would highly suggest that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's some excellent advice. Ronald, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo a lot of what everybody else has kind of said here. I think, if you can get somebody to understand your story, right? Get somebody to understand your life, they're more likely to be entertained, and they're more likely to want to continue to follow and engage. And it's important that you have a strong conviction on your why, right? You need to be very strongly convicted on it yourself, because that will come through. It's amazing to see how many times people decide to purchase or follow someone because of their conviction on why they're doing what they're doing. So I think that's a big deal. And if you are a budding entrepreneur or somebody who has done it for a while, but maybe it's a little bit stale, that's something to really take a step back and figure out what is your why are you doing this, and how is it meant to benefit people as a whole. So
Wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing advice. I must say, this has been like an excellent panel discussion today with all four of you. All of you have shared everything that you have doing, and I think the advice, the insight, the experiences that you have shared are really, really useful and going to really help a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses out there. And I must say, the advice that you have given at the end is listening to the consumers, about adding value to the consumers and helping them not just at the purchase stage, but after the purchase stage also, and having a strong conviction about why you are doing things and having that strong purpose behind your venture. It's amazing. And I would really like to say thank you so much for taking out time today in joining this panel. We would love to learn more from you guys. Probably in 60-minute session, I think we try to cover and touch a lot of bases, but we would love to host you again in Q1. And with this, thank you so much, Melly, for taking out time to join the panel. Stephanie, really, really awesome to meet you. Thank you so much for taking out time. Jay, again, a great, great uh, thought process, I must say. Thank you so much for joining this afternoon. Ronald, thank you so much for what you're doing to inspire the young generation. I think what you're doing through education, and you're really making a big difference. Thank you so
Can I
much.
ask a really quick question? So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and inviting me, but I would love to follow these amazing companies and brands. So can everyone just give a little snippet of where you can be found so I can find you on Instagram or on the web? Is that okay?
Sure, I will connect you all on an email so that you can have an email conversation and take the conversations forward. Absolutely, I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melly. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much, Ronald. Christmas and New Year is happening soon, so I wish you guys the best of luck for the new year. And I think next year is really going to be very, very wonderful, and we all have to keep moving. And yeah, I think you guys are inspiring. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much once again. Bye bye. Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye bye.